instead of leaving it in shambles.
All right. As Africa's largest economy, it is appalling to hear that Nigeria may go bankrupt if something drastic is not done to raise revenue. A multinational consulting firm, KPMG, has raised concern over Nigeria's debt burden, saying the country may use 100% of its 2023 revenue to service loans. According to the firm, with revenue to GDP ratio of 4.49% as of December 2022, Nigeria's debt service to revenue ratio may surpass 100% in 2023, which limits the fiscal space of government's ability to pay for its operations and functions. Jide, the long and short of this grammar here is a country moving towards bankruptcy.
Yes, because we refuse to take the right decisions. The Senate President and his colleague in the House of Reps, every time the President asks for a loan, they oblige him. Every time they oblige him. We have a situation in which from 19.3 trillion debt in 2015, according to the World Bank, we are now around 78 trillion. So debt service to revenue was 83.2% in 2021. In 2022, it climbed to 96.3%, which means 96.3% of our receipt of the money that we made went to servicing debts. And nobody needs to tell you that if it was 96.3% in 2022, in 2023 it will further go up. Maybe it will get to 100% or more. Because there was a particular quarter where we actually spent 118% of our revenue on debt servicing. Whereas during that same period, South Africa, that has a higher debt stock than Nigeria, spent only 20% of its own receipts, of its own earnings on debt servicing. A country spending as much as this from its revenue,
all our profits,
almost everything that it earned. You know, there's no way
like pouring water
at that
into the
system
basket
and not be worried. Where are you? What will only happen is that you will be asking for more loans. You will be asking for more loans. You know, I once talked about a letter that the Vice President wrote to the National Assembly asking for loan of $1.2 billion, $1.2 billion. I felt this loan was more. But the other day, the President wrote to the National Assembly again asking for $800 million, which was even less than the one that I was complaining about. I think that one was almost 3 years ago. So where are we going? The government is about to leave office, just a matter of days, but is still asking for loan to continue the policy of conditional cash transfer for the next 6 months. In those 6 months, you won't be in office. Yes, they always say government is a continuum, and I'm not against the idea of conditional cash transfer, because even the World Bank recommends it to cushion the effect of inflation and all that, so that the most vulnerable can at least have something in their hands. But at the rate at which we are going, that kind of money should be from our earnings, not to go and incur debt.
To borrow and to pay the poor.
At the rate we are going to take loans to service debt, because it's looking inevitable now, especially when we have not removed subsidy. Because if you remove subsidy, you'll be able to free up some funds. Subsidy payment is part of why we do not have enough revenue, because part of what the bulk of what NNPC even makes, they are using it to pay for subsidy. So if subsidy goes, it means you can free some funds And perhaps some of these loans that we are taking, like a blind sailor, perhaps it will stop or go down drastically. A time will come when even those creditors will say, no, we are not giving you money, because they will see clearly that the loans that we are taking, our revenue profile cannot sustain those loans.
If KPMG is concerned about our debt burden, and they've given these indices, and yet we still not looked for ways of reversing this trend, because it's not clear that a new government will get there, will still continue to borrow.
No, it's going to get worse, because you see, we are not serious people. We like to deceive ourselves all the time. Our case is like that of a bank manager that was working in the bank, and they gave him car allowance, gave him generator, gave him a house, an official accommodation, and he was enjoying himself and having a good time, send his kids to private school, and he was a big man in the society, a bank manager of a very good bank. That bank now ran into problems, and this man was sacked. And instead of him to face the reality that he was no longer a bank manager, who the bank pays all his bills, now he has to struggle to survive. But this same man still wants to continue his lifestyle. He still wants to send his children to the best school.
Ride the same
he still wants to go to holiday. He wants to, so he now started borrowing from the bank. He just knows that he's deceiving himself, because ultimately he will go bankrupt. It will show, because he will not be able to pay back. There will be time that Nigeria will not be able to pay back and will run bankrupt.
And our investors, our creditors will not even give us.
The problem is that we don't tell ourselves the basic truth. Nigeria is not as rich as we used to be.
Yeah.
We are not, even the oil that's the major earner, we are not selling the kind of, because of security situations and because of oil theft and all that, we are not selling the kind of barrels that we're supposed to sell. So our income has reduced drastically. Apart from that, we are deceiving ourselves that, oh, because of political situation, and all of us are guilty of it. When government says they want to increase, they want to remove subsidy, people, Nigerian Labour Congress will come and say they cannot remove subsidy. If they remove subsidy, they are going to go on strike. They are going to do that. You are just deceiving yourself, because you cannot afford what you are spending. You are talking of what those ones. The Nigerian government, because they say it's 96%, it's actually more than 96%, because the remaining money they are spending is through ways and means, which they do by printing money from central bank. You are going to go bankrupt. We have to face reality. Nigeria is not as rich as it used to be. We cannot afford subsidy. All of us driving our cars must be ready to pay normal fare for our petroleum products. If we don't do that, if we continue to spend those trillions on subsidy, eventually, it's not rocket science, this country will go bankrupt.
And when you want to look at this trend now, this new government will have to take that decision in a matter of days. We cannot dilly-dally again in months to say,
People have actually suggested that it can be a phased removal.
Okay.
A phased removal, because the aftershock of sudden total removal may not go well for the system. So why not do a phased removal? The people will be able to absorb that shock, incremental absorption of the shocks of removal until things normalize.
Can you break it down?
Now, okay. Subsidy has been there since the Obasanjo era as a military ruler, but they've been reducing the level of subsidy. They've been reducing it. It has never been 100%. You get the point?
But it is 100% now.
No.
Okay.
Even now, it is not 100%.
What is not 100%?
The subsidy. What I'm saying is, at a point during Obasanjo's regime, don't know when it started, you know, this whole
gradually.
Yes, this whole thing stemmed from the need to cushion the effect of rising oil prices during the Israel-Arab war. And that was why subsidy, not just for petrol, but even for essential commodities, government introduced subsidy, at that time. So the rate of subsidy had been reduced. There are some services that in the past government decided to bear so that the price will not be this high. The price, if you look at how much we are buying petrol in the 70s, in the 80s, it is not what it is now. So there had been phased reduction of the percentage of subsidy. If you ask anybody in the sector, in the oil sector, they will tell you that that back then during Obasanjo's era, military era, that the rate at which government bore the burden of subsidy was higher than now.
No, it's higher now.
Is higher. No.
Why is higher? Why is higher now? It's because within that time and now, your naira has been devalued.
No, not just that.
So the money that you committed, because the money government is spending now is more. The money.
See, let me tell you, the real reason it is this high is not just because of the value of the currency. It is because we claim that we are actually consuming at a level that a lot of us find difficult to believe.
Of course, because it is false, because
so
it's a scam.
When you look at, it's not as if there was no subsidy during Jonathan's time. Look at the subsidy
bill. We can't give accounts.
Look at the subsidy bill at that time and now. There is a world of difference. Subsidy bill at that time, throughout the Jonathan era, was not up to 500 billion.
Yes,
now we keep talking about trillion.
Now we are talking about, we are now talking about 6 trillion. In the 2023 budget now, they are projecting to spend 6 trillion. Whereas at a point it was just
because it's a big scam. You see those people,
at that time, they never told us that that our consumption level was up to 30. It was between 27 to 30
it has always been like that. You
remember that now they are telling us is, in fact, the day the Senate President complained, they were talking about 99 million liters per day. And everybody saying it's not possible. That are you saying, look at the argument of the Customs Controller General, that if you are saying the bulk of it is as a result of smuggling, it is not, where are the trucks? You need hundreds of trucks going across the border every day.
Thousands.
Where are they? Maybe they will pass through the land borders. Where are they? Who are seeing hundreds of trucks passing? Because the man, they calculated
it. Added with fraud.
No, it's because there's a mafia in NPC that's always been there. Importation of fuel has always been easy money for a lot of people. You remember that when Saraki investigated this and they came up with people and people were jailed, they realized that some people are even collecting money for subsidy when they didn't even bring in any petroleum products.
Yes.
You understand? And because that scam is there, the only way you can neutralize them is to allow market forces to determine it. Yeah, and why I don't agree with partial removal is because, you see, when there is a problem, when there's a problem, immediately you do that partial removal, the pain is still there. By the time you come back another time, it becomes more difficult. People want to resist it more. The best thing is for you to, especially a new government that is coming, that has 4 years to serve the people, it is important to implement that plane. Immediately you come in. If Buhari has done that in 2015, we'll have solved that problem since. When he had capital to be able to use that, when you come in, remove it, the pains will be there, people will feel it, and then eventually they will get used to it. But by the time you remove it gradually, when you do it now, people will complain. By the time you want to do it another time, they will resist it more.
Is coming. You know, this is an emotional issue. A new government is coming in, and you want to remove subsidy that week.
No, not that week, but very early in the government.
Look at what Obasanjo
by the time the government settles down.
Did. As Yaradua was about to take power, Obasanjo increased fuel price. That was when he moved it to, I think, 65 or something.
65.
He increased fuel price. He didn't want the government, the new government, to walk into a climate of hatred. He did it on their behalf.
On their behalf, yes.
This is the government.
They should have done it. But they chicken out. They said they would do it, but they chicken out.
No, according to Nasir El-Rufai, everybody in the meeting said, let's remove it. It was the president that said no. that will not remove. Yeah, that's what said it during our.
Yes, I know. That's what I'm saying.
No,
he should
so
have
the
done it
president
because,
said, no,
because people
vice
will
president, all
complain.
of them were there. Said, let's remove this thing.
And they will
it
get
will
used
kill
to it.
Nigeria. Because where are you going to find front? And people are stealing. Stealing mindlessly with it. Somebody argued that there's no way you can tell me that the prosperity of this period is greater than the Jonathan era. Because during the Jonathan era, people could afford a lot of things that they can't afford now.
Absolutely.
So are you telling me that people are buying more vehicles now than that period? Do the FATs at the licensing office, do they
People
support
don't even
increase?
no, they don't not even buy this because the price of vehicles
way
have gone
higher
up
now.
now.
Yes.
Because
It's
of
unreachable.
yes,
You
because
can't
of
buy
the
car.
custom
It's a
duty.
Tokubo car.
Because of the custom duty, you can't buy cars
How do you
anymore.
then explain a much higher level of petrol consumption?
Because it's a scam.
So
They
and
know.
you can't pin
Everybody
everything
knows
on
it's a scam.
smuggling. You can't pin everything on
It's not
smuggling.
smuggling. It's a scam. If you remove it today, I can tell you that if you remove it today, you will realize that the consumption level will reduce by half.
So
All right.
substantially.
All right. There's fire on the mountain in Plateau